everyday witches emerge from the shadows of secrecy. Broom closets are flinging open and witches are taking flight. Whether you are hiding in your cozy closet or flying with pride, stay for a spell as Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon and her guests share magical moments, stir the cauldron, and debunk misinformation and misconceptions about paganism, witches, and our wonderful world of magic.
Hello, everyone. Today, my special guest is a pagan named Waterfall, and she is embracing or trying to embrace her witchhood. Welcome, Waterfall. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Thank you, Theodora. Yes, I am Waterfall. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am now retired. I spent most of my career as an elementary school counselor. I'm currently working very part-time doing therapy with children.
So you do therapy in private practice setting?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's exciting. Is that different from being a school counselor?
Very different. I did it before I became a school counselor, but I feel like now I'm relearning everything all over again because it's a completely different way of working.
You describe yourself as a pagan, and you also said that you're trying to embrace your witchhood. What does that mean?
I found the pagan path fairly late in life, but once I found it, it was easy for me to embrace calling myself a pagan. It just kind of opened up a whole world of things that I kind of knew instinctually, but didn't maybe have a name for or a path for. The witch part has been harder because it's just been a journey trying to figure out what that meant for me. I know quite a few witches. I'm in a circle with women. It's a women's only circle, and most of the women define themselves as witches, but they're all very different. And also magick. It took me a long time to embrace the concept of magic, what it was, what that meant for me, because I saw magical things happen with other witches, and I felt I can't do any of that. For instance, I've seen them bend spoons. I can't bend a spoon because I don't believe I can bend a spoon. So I had to figure out what my magic was and what that meant for me. And that's taken a while.
Have you found your magic?
I think I am finding it. I describe myself as a healing water witch. Most of the work I've done in my life has involved healing in some way or another. And I'm embracing it as a pagan and a witch. A lot of my magic involves healing in one way or another, as does my professional life. So I've just kind of taken what I've been interested in the area of healing, and I became a Reiki master. I'm very interested in crystals, so I started using crystal beads, making jewelry for people with a specific intention. And I do some candle magic, and it feels right for me. It feels like my brand of magic.
That sounds lovely. How did you find your pagan path?
It was a very long journey, starting in probably junior high or high school when I began to learn about world religions and different religions. I was raised in a pretty liberal Presbyterian church who actually taught about different religions and reincarnation, which fascinated me. when I heard about that concept. And when I studied other religions, I was struck by the similarities between major world religions. I felt like the most important core beliefs were very, very similar. And I came to believe that there was no one correct religion, that God or the divine, or however you want to describe the higher power, was something that humans could not fully understand. And different religions are human attempts to try to relate to that and try to understand that. And different religions work for different individuals and work for different cultures. And I just saw it as different paths to the same goal. So I never believed that there was one right religion. So I began looking for the path that was right for me, that felt right for me. And throughout my life, I've been an explorer. I've been to all kinds of churches, places of worship, explored every different religion I could possibly think of, looking for the one that fit me. I began to find it when I took a class through the Unitarian Universalist Church. It was called Cakes for the Queen of Heaven. And it talked about patriarchy and feminism in the Bible. And it opened my eyes to how patriarchal Christianity was and the lack of any feminine voice. And it introduced to me the idea of a feminine image of God. And that was something I could relate to a lot better than a male image. I don't believe that the divine being has a gender, but for me, thinking about the goddess brings me closer to that divine than thinking about a god. So to me, that was the first step. And from there, I found my current spiritual group that I belong with. That's a Dianic group, which means it's for women only, and it deals only with feminine spirituality. Now, I go to other groups that embrace the male too, because I enjoy that. But there is also a richness and something that I really deeply needed, I think, in the Dianic group.
So there you feel at home.
Yes, exactly.
How long ago did you find this group?
16 years ago. Doesn't seem that long, but I guess it was about 16 years ago.
And during this time, you were still working in the school system as a counselor, correct?
Correct.
So now, did you share this wonderful new information that you got from the Dianic group with anybody you worked with?
No, I shared it with my friends and family, but at work, no, I was pretty much in the closet because I worked in a culture that was pretty conservative, and I was afraid that it would cause a problem if I was openly pagan. I didn't feel that the community at large would really understand that, and there could be a problem if they knew that their elementary school counselor was pagan because of false beliefs that people have about pagans. So I was pretty much in the closet at work. Eventually, I confided in a few good friends at work who kept it private, but I was not out at work.
What was your fear at work? What misinformation were you concerned about?
A lot of people have misconception of paganism and witches and think that we're evil and that we worship Satan and eat babies and have evil intentions. And I was afraid that they would assume that and be worried that I was there to indoctrinate their little children into this world of evil.
It's really sad that people still believe that stuff from centuries ago, that propaganda. They still believe it.
Absolutely. And the media perpetuates it, so it's easy to believe.
That's right. So now that you've retired, you don't have to worry about anybody at work finding out. So, how has retirement been for you as far as being openly pagan?
I feel that after retirement, I am totally open about it. I feel like I'm totally out of the broom closet. I will tell anyone that asks, including former coworkers, because there's no more reason to hide it. And that feels really good.
Have you had the opportunity to tell people who you've hidden it from before? Hey, this is who I am.
No, I really haven't yet because it hasn't come up. If it comes up, I will. And it'll be interesting to see their reactions.
That would be curious. So the opportunity just wasn't there.
Right, not yet.
You once told me that you had considered running for the school board. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about that story?
Well, after I retired, actually, for a while, I had been thinking that with all my experience in the schools, I was a teacher, I was a counselor, part of the administration, that I would have a lot of knowledge that would be really helpful on a school board, and was kind of interested in that. Maybe that's something I should do when I retire. And then someone approached me with the idea that, I'd really like you to run for this school board. I think that that would be a really good idea. So I thought about it. And again, public schools and paganism, I don't know. That was scary. I mean, the whole idea of running for a public office is kind of scary to me. I'm not an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So that whole process was kind of intimidating. And then the fact that it could get out that I was a pagan and a witch, I thought that would be a problem because public schools are so conservative. And I just decided I did not want to deal with that.
Was this before or after retirement?
This was after retirement.
So even after you retired, you were concerned that this would open the door to scrutiny.
Yes.
And then misinformation would come out. You'd be the baby killer.
Correct.
And the satanic worshiper.
Right.
So what is your belief as far as satanic worship? I'm sure you've heard that quite often.
Yes. Yes. There is nothing evil at all about the witchcraft I practice or the paganism that I believe in. I think it's kind of amusing because Satan is not a pagan concept at all. Satan is a Christian concept. It comes from the Christian religion. Pagans don't worship Satan. We don't even believe in Satan. There are gods and goddesses of the underworld and the afterlife. We don't embrace any entity that is just inherently evil. So the idea that we worship Satan is so far from the truth, it's kind of funny.
And what I find is when I explain that to people who believe that we worship Satan, and I say, well, we don't believe in that. There's no such thing as Satan. I don't believe that there's this thing out there that makes us do evil because we have free will. They don't comprehend that this is something we don't do or don't believe in because it's been ingrained in their brains that this thing, the devil, Satan, is real. We don't believe he's real. Would you agree?
I agree that that's startling to people, to be confronted with the idea of, well, maybe he's not real. You mean there's people that don't think he's real? Because it's so deeply ingrained in our culture, and it's been so deeply tied to witchcraft through the media.
And I think that's because of Hollywood.
Absolutely.
As a counselor, you probably can appreciate this story. It was only a few months ago I had a child in my office. She was my patient, 9 years old, very bright little girl. and her mother was also a school counselor. The child told me, "My mom told me that the devil makes us do bad things." And I asked the child, "Can I tell you my perspective?" "Yes." So I told her that I didn't believe in the devil. I believe that we had free will. And there isn't this thing that makes us do bad things. So I gave her the example of when I'm driving down the street and I'm speeding and a police officer pulls me over. What do you think the police officer would do if I explained that the devil made me do it? And she laughed. I said, "That's kind of funny, right?" She said, "Yeah, that's funny." I said, "And then let's take a step further." I go to the judge and I tell the judge the same thing. The devil made me do it. What do you think the judge would think if I told him that I was speeding because the devil made me do it? And she started laughing and she said, "The judge would think you're crazy." I said, "Yes, probably."
I love that metaphor. I may borrow that for some of my clients. I love that metaphor.
You can hand it out to everybody. But what I thought was interesting, this is a child who came to see me every week. Pleasant child. Mom was a pleasant lady, school counselor. After that session, I never saw that child again because they didn't make any other appointments.
I was wondering about that.
Mm-hmm.
What mom must have thought of that. Yeah.
I believe in teaching children that we have free will and we have to take responsibility for our behavior. We can't come up with excuses like there's this red-horned monster that's made me do all this stuff.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, now that you're retired, you pretty much don't care if people know that you're pagan or witchy. Is it freeing?
Very. It always feels better to be authentic. To be completely fine with whoever knows feels good. It feels more authentic. Except I won't run for the school board.
Still.
Still.
I notice that when people run for office, any office, we usually know what the candidate's religion is. Have you noticed that?
I have.
Oh,
yes.
she's Catholic. He's Jewish. He's Methodist. They always point that out to the public.
Yeah, and then all those stereotypes around that religion is put onto that candidate. Yes.
It'd be interesting to know what would happen if a pagan ran for office.
It sure would.
Maybe that will happen in the near future.
Maybe you, Theodora.
I'm not a political person. I do hope that happens, in the near future. We can see that. We can live more openly and paganism is more normalized.
It's wonderful to think of that there would come a time when it was so normalized that if there was a pagan candidate, people would understand what that was and not immediately go to evil. But we have a long road ahead.
We've come a long way.
I think so, yes.
The pentacle is a sign that they think is evil too. And unfortunately, it's because these horror movies use our symbol to make their movie more fantastical.
Yes. And that really bothers me because that's an important symbol to me as a pagan. It represents the four elements and the spiritual and the unity of all those things. And it's to me, it's a sacred symbol, like the cross is to Christians. So when I see that symbol depicted as something evil, that bothers me quite a bit. I think that Christians would be pretty offended if in a movie the cross was depicted as an evil symbol.
When I wear my pentacle necklace, I get different reactions. Sometimes people just stare. They don't ask any questions. They just stare. And I know they've noticed it. And I wonder what they're thinking. Some people will ask, "What is that?" And that's my opportunity to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I've even been asked, "Oh, are you Jewish?" I said, "No, the Jewish symbol looks different." It has 6 points and we have 5 points. I think it's an opportunity to educate people. What is that symbol? What does it mean? And I happen to like mine.
Absolutely. Now, recently I hosted a baby shower for my son and daughter-in-law at my house. I was a little worried because my house is full of witchy, pagany things. And I was a little worried that maybe some of the guests would get upset because a lot of people were coming that I didn't really know. I figured, well, maybe they won't really notice because their focus will be on the baby shower. That was true. I think most people didn't notice. There were a few that noticed a few of my things and were curious. Like I remember one guy noticed my set of books about the Sabbats. And he said, I saw your books over there. There was one about midsummer. I said, yes, those are the books about the wheel of the year and the different Sabbats. And he said, well, I watched a movie about midsummer. And he was kind of skirting around the issue, but I could tell he was curious.
Have you seen that movie?
I haven't. I'm going to. It's probably about evil witches, right?
It starts out normal paganism, but then it turns into a horror movie, of course. The previews look like it would be an interesting movie, and I couldn't wait for it to come out in the theaters. So I watched Midsummer, and then I was disappointed. Like, I'd probably say 3/4 of the way in, it seemed like it was a nice pagan movie, and then it just got ugly, I thought. It's like, why do they have to do this to us?
Right. Every time I watch a movie or a show and there's a witch in it, I think, oh, let me guess. She's wicked. You had asked me if former coworkers now knew about me. And I'm just thinking, when that happens, and I think it will with a few people that I'm still in touch with, it will be very interesting to see their reaction because I was the school counselor. The counselor is the heart of the school. And the counselor is all about love and nurturing and healing. And my coworkers saw me that way. And so to find out that I'm pagan and a witch, how are they going to react to that when they know me very well and they know me as someone that is healing and very good? That'll be interesting.
And hopefully that gives you the credibility you deserve because they've known you for years. They know the person you are. So telling them that you're pagan hopefully will be small stuff.
Yes.
I have some friends, and sometimes when I talk about spiritual things, I start out by saying, okay, well, I'm a little kooky. And they laugh and say, yes, but we love you anyway. I make it light. And then, some people will come right out and ask me, are you a witch? I am. I knew it. I knew it.
And if you can get past the wicked stuff, most people are really curious about it.
When I don't know about a religion, like I have a patient who will mention what their religion is. And if I don't know anything about it, I ask, what do you believe? What's it like? Because we can learn from other people.
Absolutely. Different paths to the same goal.
So going back to your baby shower, that man who mentioned Midsummer, did he have anything more to say about it other than the movie?
No, not really. But it was nice that he was curious.
That is nice. But if movies about witches portrayed us accurately, they probably would be very boring movies.
Yes, because really we are so normal. It would take all the drama out of it.
Now you're living your life authentically. Do you ever think back how life would have been like in the work environment if you had been open about it?
Sometimes I think about that. I don't know. It would be interesting. Yeah, I wonder if my principals would have told me to keep it quiet, that we don't want the parents finding out.
Although many pagans I know are in the healing professions, and Many of them have been quiet in the workplace. But there's so many of us out there, it makes you wonder how many more other people at the school where you taught may have been pagan and you didn't know it because they didn't share it with you.
Right. Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would be.
So something that I really liked doing with my kids at school was teaching them meditation. I did a lot of guided meditations with them. I was the school counselor for about 24 years. So way back in the beginning of my career there, I did some guided meditation with the kids, but I could not call it meditation because that was not something that you said in the school. Parents didn't want their kids doing meditation. That was somehow to them tied to religion, and it was evil and not good. So I called it an imaginary trip.
I love it.
Yeah, the kids loved it too, actually. It's a lot of fun. And then toward the end of my career there, all of a sudden, it became the new popular thing to do in schools, teaching kids meditation. Their research came out about the benefits of it and how it helped kids. And so all of a sudden, the counselors were busy learning meditation and how to teach children meditation, which I thought was hilarious. As they went to all these workshops, I just kind of laughed to myself. I've been doing this for years. I just called it something else. So at that point, it was nice because it kind of opened a door to me and I could expand the program and we could call it meditation. And we could do meditation school-wide in the morning for a minute before the school day started. And some of the teachers really embraced it and started doing meditation with their kids every single day. It was great. All of a sudden, it was not evil. It was funny.
Well, in the school system, you probably have to be very careful. It's probably so easy to offend somebody about something.
It is. It very much is.
A few years ago, a woman told me she was really upset with her daughter's teacher because they were reading Harry Potter. And she said, that's witchcraft, it's against the Bible, and I'm going to report this teacher to the school board. I thought, oh boy, this poor teacher.
Yeah, and imagine if she had found out the school counselor was pagan.
Right, right.
Counselor would have been reported to the school board too.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for anybody in the workplace regarding being pagan and whether or not to be open about their practices?
Well, I think that you have to be very careful and gauge the climate and gauge the people that you're working with. It feels so much better to be authentic. But if that is going to cause problems in the workplace, then maybe you can't be 100% authentic in that environment.
And it probably depends on where you live in the world, too.
Definitely. The school I worked in was probably 98% Hispanic Catholics. So I'm sure many of them had open minds, but I'm also sure that many of them were extremely conservative and would maybe even be scared to find out that the counselor was pagan.
Were you more concerned about the parents or your coworkers?
The parents. Coworkers, I think knew me better, and I could explain what it was, and they would be open to that. I'm not sure all the parents would have been. I think some of them would have been very quick to judge and not open to hearing another side of paganism.
And especially since they didn't really know you very well. Mm-hmm.
I could have chosen to fight that battle, but it would have caused quite a problem for the school and for my, administrators, and it just was not something I wanted to put my school through.
Now, you said that your friends and family, you told them in the beginning that you decided to be pagan.
Yes.
Were they accepting?
Yes, they were. I don't think there's anybody that wasn't, because they knew me so well, so they know who I was. They knew I wasn't evil, and they knew I was on a spiritual journey and that spirituality was very important to me, and I was trying all different kinds of spirituality, searching for my path. That was kind of part of who I was that most people knew about. Everybody was pretty accepting. My dad was a pretty devout Christian, so I think out of everyone, he was the most worried about it. But he was also very curious, and once I kind of explained what it was all about, he was fine. So I was very lucky I didn't have anyone that was very important to me give me any backlash.
You're very fortunate.
Yes.
And now that you're retired, you can just be you.
Which is great.
Well, it's been lovely having you on the show, Waterfall.
Well, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Theodora.
And I enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you for joining us for Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon. Have a burning question or have a topic you'd love Theodora and her guests to discuss on the show? Contact her through Instagram at Theodora Pendragon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And help us spread the word by leaving us a rating and review and sharing it with your friends. See you next time, and may your magic always shine.